Hello, my nasties. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to a fresh, sketchy Saturday video. For this episode, I will be answering a couple of questions from two of my YouTube subscribers. But before I do, let me describe exactly what is happening on screen, what it is that you're watching. I mean, assuming that you're watching, because some of you are simply listening in the background, which of course is totally fine. But for those of you who are watching, this illustration was sketched initially in graphite in a sketchbook, then inked, and then colored with a mix of alcohol markers, gel pens, and fine liners. All of these supplies, as always, will be linked and or listed down below. Okay, so if you have any questions about what I'm using, if you would like to pick one up, links are below. You don't need to purchase from Amazon. You can purchase wherever you want, but for your convenience, the links are there. Of course, if you have any specific questions regarding any of the supplies that I'm using, the book, the pens, etc., feel free to leave me that question down in the comments below. So I created this illustration back in November as just something cute and autumnal for my Patreon patrons. This was one of the monthly coloring pages that I have available for my Patreon patrons at the Color Fiend tier. It is no longer available for download, so if you want to purchase it and you join my Patreon, unfortunately it is no longer available. I do have the pages available for about a month, then they disappear, and then new ones come up. So to those of you who were around in November, I hope that you enjoyed this page. I know it's a little late, it's already December, but I mean, is art ever late? Mushrooms are always fun. So I decided to whip her out and color her in December. Special shout out, by the way, to Michael, who is one of my current patrons. I ended up having a spur of the moment giveaway with this particular page, and he won it. I'd never done it before. I'd never done a giveaway, and as of this filming, this gal was torn out of the book and she traveled to another state to live her best life for my first ever Patreon giveaway. So that was a fun little change of pace. It was fun. We all love doing it. And Michael, if you are watching, I don't know if you are subscribed to my channel, but thank you and I hope that you enjoy. Okay, onward to the questions. Let's see here. I do have a couple of notes written here. Okay, so the first question comes from Brooke, and she asks, do you have any core memories that have inspired your artwork in some way? And then a little bit later in the video, I will be answering the second question, which comes from Texas Jess. Cute name. She asks, what else do you love to do as much as your art? So let's go ahead and answer Brooke's question, which is the first question. Now, do I have any core memories that have inspired my work in some way? This is such a good question. It is a great question for someone who has an interesting answer, of which I absolutely do not. This is the sort of question that I personally would enjoy hearing being answered. But is that grammatically correct? It's the sort of question I would enjoy hearing being answered by. Something's not sitting right with me with the grammar of that sentence, but you understand what I'm trying to say here. That's the sort of question whose answer I would enjoy hearing from someone that I personally admire, any creative that I admire. The truth is, I simply have no interesting, amusing, cutesy little anecdote to share. I don't have any life-altering core memories that I can attribute my creative pursuits to, unfortunately. I've discussed this in the past, and of course there are new people here, so I will go ahead and reiterate and just go over this one more time, that I discovered my interest in illustration, relatively speaking, to most artists fairly late. As with all children, I loved coloring and such when I was itty-bitty, right? I hate it when people say, oh, this artist was born loving to be creative. Well, duh, all kids are. Everyone is creative. Everyone is creative. What happens is society and adulthood and all of those pressures, that destroys the child, which was so creative to begin with, right? That bright, fresh, happy kid who enjoyed being creative and making a mess. Some of us overcome the nonsense of adulthood and we allow that inner child, that spirit within us, to continue living on. And others, unfortunately, are beat down and it is quieted. And some people rediscover that love and some people just don't, right? It's really unfortunate. But lest I veer off into a tangent about that, we can definitely talk about that at a later date. I cover that topic fairly regularly on my channel, but I'm very passionate about that suppression, the unfortunate realities of creative suppression. But again, topic for another day. Back on topic, as with all children, I loved coloring, I loved sketching, but I did not really begin developing an interest, like a serious interest in illustration, until around junior high. I don't have an exciting quote unquote eureka moment. You know, the light bulb never really went off in some dramatic fashion. I simply picked up a pencil out of sheer boredom one summer, and the rest, as they say, is history. As a kid, I enjoyed escaping into my no school, yay, it's summer, fantasy land. Every summer I loved summer. Summer was my favorite because I never really was interested in school. I loved learning certain subjects, but I just didn't enjoy being in school, being around people. It's just surprise, surprise, right? None of you are surprised by that. It's no revelation. But I enjoyed summer because it allowed me to do literally nothing but read and play outside and just keep to myself and allow my brain to go wild. I was less antisocial then as a child than I am now, but my imagination was, I would say, probably slightly less active as a kid, believe it or not. I feel as though with age and as time passes, the more rich and the more immersive my little bubble that I create for myself is becoming, which is fabulous. But I was a voracious reader. So in hindsight, it makes sense that art soon followed. I read a lot of fiction. I did read nonfiction, but as a kid, I was definitely a fiction person. Now as an adult, it's kind of flip-flopped a bit. But I also played a ton of video games. I was a huge gamer growing up. So dreaming up characters was a natural progression. You know, all of the characters that I was reading about and then all of the video games that I was playing, that inspired me to start looking into fashion and creating fantastical illustrations. That basically is the answer to that question. How many people did I disappoint with such a banal answer? Everyone, listen. I will never pretend to be more exciting than I am. The truth is the truth, and the truth is I was just a nerdy, artsy, bookwormy kid who grew up into a, well, let me scratch that. All of those things are true, but I was a shy, nerdy, yeah, I said it, the word shy, nerdy, artsy, bookwormy kid who grew up into a sassy, not shy at all, but still nerdy, still artsy, bookwormy adults with a bit of an adventurous streak. You know, we got rid of that little shy nonsense that I had growing up, and now I'm the same exact animal, except I'm far more outgoing and much less shy, let me tell you. But anyway, my style and growth as a creative is based on the natural flow of my interests. There's no specific core memory, or there's no specific group of memories that I can think of that inspired who I am today. It's just all been an amalgamation of time, my interests, my growth and development. I merely exist. That's it. I exist and I am who I am, and I can't really attribute it to any mind-blowing moments in my history. Sorry to disappoint, but it is what it is. Okay, next question, and this is from Texas Jess. What else do I love to do as much as art? Well, read and study. No shocker there. I'm going to take a little sippy sip of my coffee here. Oh, excuse me, banging on the microphone. Okay, so I would consider myself to be an avid, mind you, hyper amateur. I'm very much an amateur, but I enjoy reading about astronomy. I am a relatively well-educated art historian. Fun fact for those of you who are new here. I was on the path to teach art history. That is what I wanted to do. I wanted to be either a high school art teacher, in art, Okay. I wanted to be, it's my brain and my mouth, right? My brain thinks faster than my mouth can speak. I initially thought that I was going to be either a high school art history teacher or a art history college professor. I know she wanted to have a nice, normal, steady job, right? But of course, nice, normal, steady. When the hell does that ever work for me? No, I snapped out of that eventually. But I love art history. I'm very passionate about art history and history in general. Astronomy, I'm not exactly sure how that fits into my life, but I've always been a bit of a spacey sci-fi nerd. I was obsessed with Star Wars when I was growing up. Oh my God, verbatim, and I'm talking the originals. See, here's my brain. I'm telling you, I'm from another time. At least that's what people tell me. When I was growing up, the new Star Wars movies, I've never had any interest in them, even though those were of my time. But even as a kid, when the new ones were already out for many years, I was still into the 1970s to the 80s Star Wars. I loved the old ones. I don't know what it was. Always, 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 always. My head was always in the 70s and 80s, and it still very much is. So anyways, I love studying history and art history, astronomy, and the history of fashion. Fashion, baby, fashion, clothing, fabric, textiles, just style, everything. I am absolutely not of the belief that fashion is frivolous. In fact, I think, knocking over my notes. I have a lot of crap on my desk right now, so things are falling. Excuse me, but you might hear some paper shuffling too. I have a couple of notes. Again, I have a little sticky note that I always write my notes for these videos on, so if my videos seem as though they veer off into tangents, well, baby, you're not wrong. That's exactly why, because I do not script my videos. What I do is I make a few bullet notes and then I just do my thing. So anyway, I am not of the belief that fashion is frivolous. I think fashion plays as important of a role in my existence as illustration does. Now, I'm not saying that people who think that fashion is frivolous are wrong and like blah, blah, blah. No, none of that. I do think that people who think that fashion is stupid and a result of capitalism and like da-da-da-da, I think that is incorrect. Fashion can be very capitalistic, 100%. I absolutely believe that. But at its core, it was a creative expression. And I feel that when you consider the roots of it, it is absolutely necessary. And especially to, creative artists, people like me, fashion is an extension of what we do. Because if there's one thing you've learned about me being on my channel for any stretch, is that I am a hamster constantly spinning on my wheel. I'm constantly working. I'm constantly dreaming up ideas. And if I didn't have outlets for expression, I would literally implode. And fashion is one more way for me to express creative facets of my personality through fashion, through textile, through textures, and through mixing of colors and all of that. Fashion informs and inspires so much of my work. And in fact, within the previous year, I began delving further into my fashion obsession by opening an online vintage boutique, which I specialize in curating funky clothing from a little bit. I dabble in the 70s. I haven't delved too deep into the 70s, but primarily the 80s, heavily into the very early 90s. And I'm going to use this as a shameless plug opportunity to plug my store, which is coconaughty.com. The name comes from the idea to open my boutique. Just a little side note. I came up with the idea at a tiki bar. My favorite tropical flavors are coconut and pineapple, but coconut primarily. And so coconaughty is kind of a play on the whole idea that I enjoy coconuts. The idea for the store came up from being at a tiki bar, and my ultimate aesthetic is a vampire in the mid-80s living in a Miami Vice styled maximalist house with some touches of 60s and 70s disco maximalism, and who enjoys going to a tiki bar on the weekend. So that's my whole aesthetic summed up into a couple of sentences, right? It's basically a tropical flavored vampire with 1980s Miami Vice and 1960s maximalist vibes. So there you go, coconauty.com. Check it out. Even if you are not interested in the wild fashion that I carry over there, pop in every once in a while, be inspired by the colors. If you purchase my coloring books, for instance, you may be wanting to infuse the pages with a little bit of that 80s flavor. Go take a look. Go take a look at Coconauty. You'll see the shapes, the colors, the style, and it maybe it will be a little inspiring. Whether you love the clothing or not, whether you shop there or not, keep Coconauty on your radar for visual inspiration. Okay? So there you go. This is going to be a fairly quick video. Surprise, surprise, my Sketchy Saturdays sometimes can be a bit rambly, but I only had a couple of questions to answer, and they were easy and fun ones. So thank you to Brooke and Jess for the questions. I do appreciate it. Thank you all for watching. For the new subscribers who are here, we've had a couple over the previous month, which has been nice. So with that being said, without further ado, I'm taking off now. So be bad, be good. I don't give a damn which. Just make sure you come back in one piece. And as always, everything you need to know will be down below. Subscribe if you have not already, and follow me on Instagram. Why don't ya? I post pictures there a lot. I go through periods where I use my Instagram very frequently, and then I kind of taper off, and then I come back. Ebbs and flows. Such is the way I do things. Okay, off I go. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.